Welcome back to Artificial Evidence. I am Owen Carver, and as always, the algorithm knows. Today, we are traveling to a small forgotten town on the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp in North Carolina. A town where people kept to themselves, where the air smelled of salt and decay, and where, in the fall of 1996, a body surfaced from the marshland, waterlogged, faceless, and unclaimed. It was the kind of discovery that should have unraveled a mystery, but instead, it deepened one. A drifter, they said, a nobody. But in towns like these, where everyone knows everyone, there is no such thing as a nobody. Someone had to know something. Someone had to have seen something. And yet, as the weeks stretched into months, it became clear that no one wanted to talk. This is the story of the man in the marsh. The town of Havelock sat at the edge of the Albemarle Pamlico Peninsula, a place of dark water, skeletal trees, and roads that led nowhere. It was a town built on the backs of fishermen and shipyard workers, the kind of place where the diner doubled as a post office, where gas stations were also bait shops, and where the sheriff was the only law for 50 miles. It was mid-October when the body was found, tangled in the reeds of a brackish inlet. A pair of duck hunters spotted it first. A bloated shape caught in the roots of a cypress tree, its skin turned the color of rotting leaves. By the time the sheriff arrived, the body was already falling apart. No wallet, no ID, no fingerprints left to lift, and the face gone, picked clean by fish and scavengers. There was little to go on. The clothes were unremarkable, jeans, a flannel, work boots caked with mud, but in the pocket of that flannel, tucked inside a plastic bag, was a single Polaroid. A woman, smiling, standing on a dock with an expanse of still, black water behind her. On the back, in smudged ink, 4 words, "Meet me at sundown." The sheriff, a man named Walter Greer, had seen plenty of death in his 20-odd years wearing the badge. But this was different. This was deliberate. The body was taken to the closest medical examiner's office, which was 2 counties over. Cause of death? Drowning. Maybe. There were no obvious wounds, no gunshot, no stab marks, no broken bones. But there was something else. Something the coroner noticed only after cleaning the body. Under the fingernails, in the creases of the palms, was a fine black grit. Not silt, not soil, charcoal. Walter Greer was not the kind of man to lose sleep over a case, but something about this one kept him up at night. Maybe it was the Polaroid. Maybe it was the way the town seemed to close in on itself after the discovery. By the end of the week, word had spread. The man in the marsh became a ghost story before he had a name. People whispered about it in the diner, at the docks, behind locked doors. But no one came forward. It was not until a month later, when a stranger came into town asking questions, that things took a turn. Her name was Claire Emerson, a reporter from Raleigh, young, ambitious, the kind of woman who did not take no for an answer. She had heard about the body through a contact at the coroner's office and saw a story no one else was telling. A nameless man, a town full of secrets, and a sheriff running out of leads. Claire started with the photo. She went door to door flashing the Polaroid, asking if anyone recognized the woman. Most people shook their heads. Some shut the door in her face. But then she met Henry Talbot. Talbot was in his 70s, a former fisherman turned gas station attendant. He had lived in Havelock his whole life, and when he saw the photo, something changed. His hands trembled just slightly. He said he did not know the woman, said he had never seen her before. But Claire knew a lie when she heard one. She dug into the town records, the property sales, the old newspapers, and eventually she found something. A fire. 30 years earlier, a cabin had burned down on the outskirts of town. The owner was a woman named Ellen Talbot, Henry's daughter. Ellen had disappeared the night of the fire. Some said she ran away. Others thought she had died in the blaze. But no body was ever found. The case had gone cold. And then Claire made the connection. The night of the fire, Ellen had been seen with a man. A drifter, just passing through. A man no one could name. Or at least, a man no one would name. Sheriff Greer had never believed in coincidences. When Claire brought him the information, something clicked. The fire, the Polaroid, the body in the marsh. But there was still a missing piece. That was when they found the second body. It was buried in a shallow grave, less than a mile from where the cabin had stood. Just bones now, wrapped in the remains of a dress, a woman's dress. Claire had been right. Ellen Talbot had never left town. She had been here all along. and whoever had buried her had waited 3 decades for her secret to stay that way, which meant that the man in the marsh had known something, and someone had killed him for it. By the time Sheriff Greer confronted Henry Talbot, the old man did not deny it. He had buried his daughter, not because he had killed her, but because he had been trying to protect her. Her real killer? A man named Richard Vance, a drifter, just like the one in the marsh. He and Ellen had been involved, but one night an argument turned violent. She fought back, but in the end she did not survive. Henry had covered it up, burned the cabin, buried his daughter, and when Richard Vance left town, he thought it was over. But then, 30 years later, Richard Vance came back. The man in the marsh was not just a drifter, he was a ghost from the past, come to dig up a truth that should have stayed buried. And someone, maybe Henry, maybe someone else, had made sure he never left again. The case never made national headlines. It did not have the glamour, the high drama of a Hollywood mystery, but in Havelock, it was the story that never died. Some say Henry Talbot took the truth to his grave. Others say he confessed everything before he passed. But the one thing everyone agrees on is this: the marsh does not keep secrets, not forever. That is it for tonight. Thank you for listening to Artificial Evidence. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to like and subscribe, and as always, the algorithm knows.